Hello, welcome to our next video on reactions of the periodic table. This video is all about oxides. We're going to start with metal oxides. So metals form oxides when they react with oxygen, and this is a synthesis reaction. An example would be iron reacting with oxygen, which is how the formation of rust happens. It's an oxidation reaction. So if iron has a charge of 2 plus, so you have iron 2, it would be this reaction where you have iron plus oxygen creating iron 2 oxide. And if iron had a charge of 3, it would be this reaction where you have iron 3 oxide as the product. So they all follow this similar formula where it's a metal plus oxygen gas creating an oxide, and then you have to balance it depending on the charge of the metal that you have. Nonmetals also form oxides when they react with oxygen, and this is also a synthesis reaction. As an example, sulfur and oxygen gas react to create sulfur dioxide. Pretty simple and straightforward. When metal oxides react with water, they take a hydrogen atom from H2O, from the water, and this creates a metal hydroxide, which is a very strong base. An example of this is if you have sodium oxide reacting with water, it creates sodium hydroxide. If you had magnesium oxide reacting with water, it would create magnesium hydroxide. And you look here, magnesium has a different charge. Magnesium has a charge of 2, sodium has a charge of 1. So we see how we balance the chemical equation changes. So always keep in mind the charge that the element has. Sodium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide. Nonmetal oxides also react with water, and when they do, they create an acid. As an example, we have this reaction where sodium dioxide reacts with water to create an acid. And then we have carbon dioxide reacting with water to create an acid. These two acids, if you remember naming conventions, think of their names right now. I'll give you a moment, and then we'll talk about them because it is important for your nomenclature, that you can name the products that are going to be produced from a reaction. All right, yes. This first one is, of course, sulfurous acid. And the second one, of course, is carbonic acid. So remember, this is not H2SO4. It's not sulfuric acid. It's sulfurous acid. Some more examples. We have SO3 reacting with H2O, and this does create sulfuric acid. We have phosphorus oxide here reacting with H2O to create phosphoric acid. But look here. This is the only way that phosphorus reacts with oxygen. It will always be P4O10. You have to remember that. Even though it might not, like mathematically, you might not get that way from just doing the charges normally. This is always how the phosphorus oxide will look. So remember that. And when that reacts with water, it creates phosphoric acid. Then, if you have NO2 reacting with water, it actually creates nitrous acid and nitric acid. Creates both of them in this reaction here. So remember all of these reactions and what products they produce. Here is a recap, a summary. So we look here, sodium, magnesium, lithium. These are, specifically it's a recap across period 3. So if you looked at periodic 3 on the periodic table, it would go sodium, magnesium, aluminum, then there's a big break, and then it comes back to silicon, phosphorus, and sulfur. So, as we see, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, they're all metals. The nature of the oxide, it's slightly basic. Reactions with water, soluble reacts, slightly soluble, some action, and then the solution formed will be alkaline or basic. It will make a basic solution. The water. Aluminum's a little different. It's amphoteric, which we'll talk about later, and is insoluble in water. Silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, they're all nonmetals, they're all acidic. Silicon is insoluble with water, so it doesn't react. And then the phosphorus and sulfur, soluble, reacts, and then it creates an acidic solution, like we mentioned. So that's just a recap of the trends that we've seen. So to talk about aluminum oxide, it is amphoteric, and therefore it reacts as both an acid and a base. Ignore this typo. When reacting as a base, oh sorry, when it reacts with a base, such as NaOH, it acts as an acid. So we can see this reaction here, where aluminum oxide reacts with NaOH and water, and it neutralizes the base and creates this salt here. When reacting with an acid, such as HCl, aluminum oxide acts as a base. So aluminum oxide, HCl, create a salt, aluminum chloride, and water neutralizing reaction. So remember, aluminum oxide, amphoteric. It can both act as an acid and a base, depending if it's with a base or if it's with an acid, and it acts as the opposite thing. And that is the end of the lesson. That is everything about oxides. Thank you so much for listening.